Hello again, everyone. I am here to swatch some more new to me watercolors. 3 of them are Daniel Smith Primatech colors, and I have one Maimeri blue, I think is how you say it. It's an Italian paint company, and then one Grumbacher color. So I'm just going to go through. These were all these were all from a recent Jerry's Artorama sale. Again, these 2 brands, I don't have a whole lot of their watercolors just because they tend to be sort of exponentially more expensive here in the United States than Daniel Smith and other really good quality watercolor, but they are great. All of the watercolor colors that I have from both Maimeri Blue and Grumbacher are excellent. And I think that this is the only Italian company that I am aware of, sort of mainstream Italian water company that makes watercolors. They don't have a huge selection of colors, but the ones that they do have are really, really great. I have not been disappointed with any of the ones that I have. Okay, so I'm just gonna push these off to the side, the tubes themselves. I have already poured the watercolors into pans, but I have not let them dry fully. Just because I kind of just did it. But I did that because the first one that I opened up tended to be, it was like basically leaping out of the tube. So I went ahead and put these in pans so that I can do the swatches from the pans. So I will put a link to each of these products. I'll put a link to Jerry's Artorama and for each of these brands. And then with the Daniel Smith colors, I also like to put links to Amazon because depending on the day, some of these can be really inexpensive. Especially the Primatech colors. I've seen some sell for like $9, whereas normally they'd be like 17. But it really does depend on the day and probably even the time because Amazon has weird practices with how they price their items. So check both if you're interested in these colors, and whichever one is cheaper for you, go ahead and go for that. Oh, and so really the Jerry's Artorama option is really best for people in the US. You could also find Daniel Smith watercolors at Jackson's. I may put a link to them as well because if you're in the UK or somewhere in the EU or even elsewhere in the world, it might be easier to or cheaper to get them from Jackson's as opposed to somewhere in the United States. Okay, so with all that said, let me go ahead and put these tubes aside. I've already labeled and put all of the information for each of these colors on the swatch sheets here. I will put a link to the swatch stamp that I am using for these. It's a stamp by Waffle Flower, and I use it all the time. Basically, it's one of the things that I use the most. And then the stamp pad itself, I just used a permanent, I believe it's oil-based stamp pad. So any oil-based or permanent stamp pad that you could use would work fine for this. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my watercolor palette here. You can see, so I've put 3 of these colors here, and so these are the Daniel Smith, and then these are the other 2 brands. I've just separated them out because I'm not sure if I want them to be in here permanently, because this is pretty much 100% Daniel Smith other than those 2. Here's my sheet. I had some other things in it, and I've since made corrections, but I haven't labeled the new ones yet here. So I'm going to put this off to the side so you won't really be able to see that, but I'm going to zoom in so you can see the swatch itself. So this first one that I've lined up is Purpurite Genuine, and this is really a beautiful purple color. I have some water off to the side, and I'm using which I believe is the Rhapsody Sable Brush. Oh, sorry, there you go. Rhapsody Sable Brush from Jerry's Artorama. I'll put a link to that as well. But I have the water off to the side and all of that, and I'm not really going to go too much into that setup. So let's go ahead and get in here into the Purpurite Genuine. And this was really thick coming out of the tube, but it also kind of leapt out. So let's see. So as per usual, the mass tone, I'm trying to get as dark as I can get out of the tube or, in the pan. When colors are right out of the tube, it's a little bit easier to get the mass tone, but I find that it's also a little bit easier to get too much pigment on both your brush and your paper. So I generally try to wait until they're dried, but I just didn't have time to wait till they dried today. And because of that, it's going to be a little bit uneven. But let's go ahead and do that. So that's the mass tone, which can get pretty dark. And then I'm going to put essentially the mass tone down here again over this stripe. As you'll see, this is a semi-transparent color, and I'll go into more of the detail specs for the color here in a minute. Let me go ahead and do that. So what I do is I go into the water without totally rinsing off the brush and the color off the brush, and then I water it out a little bit, and then I go back into the water, completely rinse it out, get some of that excess water off, and then do the rest of the swatch with that so that you can see different concentrations of the color. This is just a beautiful color. I really love it. So this one is, like I said, Purpurite Genuine. The genuine pigments do not have pigment numbers, so they're all going to be the genuine mineral that's in there. This is genuine Purpurite. It is a light fastness of excellent. Pretty much everything in here other than one, I believe, has a light fastness of excellent. It is low staining. It is semi-transparent, and it is granulating, as you can see. So I'm going to put this off to the side, but I'll bring them back so that you can see them when they've slightly dried. I really like that Purpurite. So I have two hematites today. I have this one, which is Hematite Burnt Scarlet Genuine, and then the next one is Hematite Violet Genuine. And I have to admit that I have been influenced by Irit Landgraf here on YouTube. She has some great color choices, and these were two of the color choices that looked really interesting to me. So that's part of why I had them on my list. So basically, I have a big long list of watercolor colors that I would like to try, and whenever there's a sale or something, I get a few of them. I try not to get too many at a time because I do like to use my watercolors and try to learn to use them, and if I have just so many that it's overwhelming, although I am kind of getting to that point, I may not learn to use each individual color as well. Looks like my brush is getting a little dry, so I'm going to put that in the water. This was really thick coming out of the tube as well. A lot of the genuine pigments are pretty heavy coming out of the tube. Okay, so I'm going to dip in the brush, get off some of the water, and then I'm going to do the same, but this time rinsing the brush completely. And getting some clean water to get the rest of the swatch out. And part of the reason why I like to do that is because you can really see the separation when it is more diluted out, and sometimes the granulation comes out a little better when it's diluted as well. So like I said, this one's genuine hematite, and it is low staining, semi-transparent, and granulating. And I think actually all of these genuine pigments have the same qualities as far as granulating, transparency, etc. So I'm going to put this one off to the side. You can see already it's really getting some nice granulation, and you're seeing some more red undertones under there, which is really, really pretty. Okay, so I'm going to put that off to the side. And then this one, when I swatched this one out earlier, I was really impressed with this one. It's so beautiful. And this one I only put in the pan, you know, maybe 30 minutes ago now from when I'm shooting the video, and this one is starting to dry super fast in the pan. And it doesn't look like much when you have it in its mass tone, but when you get some diluted out version of this color, it just really sings and has some really beautiful undertones to it. But with this mass tone, I'm just trying to get as dark as I can get. And with semi-transparent and transparent colors, you're never going to be able to get like 100% solid color there. Okay. little bit of a concentration there. Okay, so same deal as the rest. Let's see what we get here. This one just has a really lovely pink undertone. And it's very complex. It sort of has a pink, peachy undertone. Here, I'll get that one up to the screen a little bit more so you can see that better. And it just has really beautiful granulation and is just it's very complex. That's the only way I can think of to say it. Okay, so I'm going to put that one off to the side. So that was the last Daniel Smith, and now we're moving on to the Maimeri Blue Dragon's Blood. In deciding which color to get, like I said, they don't have a huge selection of colors, but I wanted to get something that would be kind of unique to their brand. And I don't know if this blend is necessarily unique from all other brands, but when I saw the swatch, it wasn't something that I saw very often. So there's the mass tone, and then let's get down here into the larger swatch. And it's very pigmented. This is semi-staining. And basically what staining means is that it's harder to lift when you're trying to lift up the color. And you might want to lift up color to either get some sort of highlight line in your watercolor, or you might have made a mistake and want to lift the color off. So there's a variety of ways or reasons why you would want to lift it. So this is the only one that is one down from excellent. So this light fastness rating is only good. It actually only had 3 stars on the label, but every brand has sort of a different light fastness rating. So I just knocked off 1 star, but you know, it may actually be 1 lower than that if we're looking at it as sort of a universal thing, but I don't know. So like I said, this is semi-staining, it's semi-transparent and not granulating. It's a combination of PBR7, which is a brown pigment, and PR209, which is a red pigment. And it really does have quite a light glow. And I think that this is a quinacridone red, meaning, so quinacridone is a certain type of pigment, but quinacridones tend to be very bright in their pigmentation. So I think you can kind of see that coming through there. All right, so let's move on to the next one, next and last. So this is Naples Yellow by Grumbacher. And Naples Yellow is another Irit Landgraf color that I have started to use. It's very opaque, or at least it's semi-opaque, because it has some white in it. But I've really been starting to love these more opaque pigments, which I wouldn't necessarily have liked before. I think true traditionalists might, you know, get on your case for liking for liking opaque colors, but you know, I kind of view watercoloring as play. So if I like it, I'm not really going to worry about what other people think, and I'm not really going to worry about tradition as far as watercolor. I'm just going to kind of go with what I like. The only complaint I have with I don't know why I have this little streak there. The only complaint I have with paints with a lot of white in them is that your water tends to get really milky really fast. So it means that you kind of have to change out your water more often. All right, so there you go. You can see that it's essentially laying over that black line a little bit more than the other colors. Okay, I'm going to put my brush aside, make sure that's thoroughly rinsed out. So like I said, this is Grumbacher Naples Yellow. It is semi-opaque and non-staining, non-granulating. It's 100% light fast, or excellent light fastness. I don't want to say 100% light fast. That might not actually be accurate. And it's made up of a lot of pigments. It has PBR7, PR108, PY35, and PW6:1. So a white, a yellow, a red, and a brown. And it still looks pretty light in tone, but it's really beautiful. And this is actually one of the Naples Yellows, because I've been trying some in a few different brands, and I've really been liking this one in particular. Okay, so let's bring them all back. Let's see if I can fit them all on the screen. If not, I may need to zoom out just a little bit. Let's do that just a little bit. There we go. So as you can see, the granulation on these first three has really developed nicely as it's been drying. All of my paints tend to dry pretty fast here, given that I'm in Colorado in a very dry environment. This is really the only one that has any measure of wetness still to it. These are pretty much dry, but you can see how, you know, if you're using it really thickly, you're going to end up with a really beautiful deep tone, at least for these two, maybe a little less deep for the Hematite Violet Genuine. And then as you dilute them out, you just get beautiful granulation. I am just all in on granulation. I'm really, really loving it. It's not appropriate for all subjects. I think floral artists don't tend to like granulation as much unless you're doing sort of abstracted florals, just because if you're trying to get the smooth color of petals or something like that, you can't really get that with granulating pigments. But just as far as, you know, I'm more of a landscape artist. I'd say the majority of things I paint are more landscapes and abstracts, but these are great for landscapes because you can really get a sense of texture without doing a lot of layers or a lot of work, which is why I tend to like the granulating colors. All right, well, that's it for today. Feel free to subscribe to keep track of future videos on my channel. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, and I really hope to see you next time. But in the meantime, have a wonderful day and take care. Thanks so much. Bye.